I got too much stuff. Let's talk about it. Well, not just that I have too much stuff in the room and I am completely underwater. I have way too much on the go at once. There's like easily 3-4 decades worth of worth of work to be done with all the stuff that I have. So it's like some of it's got to go, some of it's got to get rehomed, and we're gonna talk about that a bit. But also, this is a crazy week for me. There's a lot going on. Mrs. Usagi is currently in Japan visiting friends and family, which is fantastic, but she comes home tomorrow. So there's a lot of stuff that I needed to take care of around the house to prepare for her getting back home and dealing with her incredible jet lag that she's gonna have. And I really wanna help take care of her as like I know what jet lag's like. It's just the absolute worst. And also there's a local meetup on Saturday and I really wanna get up to Dallas to hang out with all of my buddies up there. I'm really looking forward to that. So it didn't make sense to kind of try and push through a normal video on one of the bigger projects that we're doing and end up with some kind of half measure, underproduced, low quality things. So this felt like an excellent opportunity to sit down with you guys and talk a little bit about the direction of the channel, how things are going to change, what the future of Usagi Electric in 2026 looks like. This video is going to be a little more minimally edited. It's going to be a little more frank, just me kind of like hanging out with you guys. Lots of me talking at the camera with not a whole lot happening in the background. So if that's not your vibe, I totally get it. We'll see you next week when we're working on like the Bomem. Actually, we're working on the Bomem next week, and we're gonna get it plugged into the PDP-1173, which is gonna be exciting. For those of you that have been hanging out for multiple years, thank you so much for sticking with me on this weird but also incredible journey that we've been on. But you also may have noticed that my editing style and my production quality has changed pretty dramatically over the years. If I go back and watch a video from 3 years ago, it's wildly different than what I put out today. And that makes sense. I'm working on videos pretty much 7 days a week, 365 days a year. Like I don't generally take a day off. And my thoughts about what's going to create a good narrative and what's going to create good pacing is obviously going to change as I get more comfortable with doing this and I explore different types of narrative structure and different types of pacing and find out what I like and what works for me. But there have been some notable changes. The biggest one is that I used to have an intro. I haven't decided if I'm gonna play that intro at the beginning of this video yet or not. I might, just for old time's sake. But if you've been around for a while, then you know that I used to have an intro, and it used to be the sound of a very broken Selectric typewriter, and it had kind of a gray background going on. And then I moved on to the jazz intro, which had close-up shots of me building this vacuum tube Usagi. And the jazz song that everybody always asks about is just a jazz rendition of the Final Fantasy VII Battle Medley. But I stopped showing that intro because I felt that it was kind of interrupting that pacing in the first 30 seconds to minute of the video, which I feel is kind of an incredibly important part of the video to really hook the viewer and bring them into the narrative. And I really want to keep the pacing of the narrative as high as possible throughout these videos that I make. I want 20 to 25 minutes to feel like 5 minutes. I want you to sit down and start watching and not realize that 30 minutes has gone by the time you make it to the end. And I think sometimes I knock it out of the park, and sometimes the video feels absolutely amazing, like it's over way too soon, even though it lasted 30 minutes. And I feel like sometimes I put out a 20-minute video that feels like it's 50 minutes long, and I absolutely just flubbed the pacing on it. And I think that this video is probably gonna feel like that if we're being honest. So I think going forward in the future, we're not going to have an intro. I'm not bringing it back. I do get comments about it all the time. So we'll show it this time for old time's sake. Now, there's also been a bit of a shift in the topics that I cover, and this has been kind of spearheaded by the Bomem DA3 here showing up. This is a Fourier transform infrared spectrometer, and I have been fully bitten by this science bug, and I want to dig into it way deeper. I want to learn more about different types of spectrometers. I mean, first of all, I want to push the DA3 here kind of to its limits. I want to do everything from UV to far infrared, which is going to require pulling things to vacuum and all sorts of really exciting stuff like that. But I also want to learn more about X-ray spectroscopy and even mass spectroscopy. And I really want to dive into microscopy. So I have a wonderful microscope over there that I haven't used, unfortunately. Somebody donated that to me, and it's been on my to-do list, and that to-do is happening this year in 2026. I really want to use that to potentially rewind some of the blown heads on a Hawk drive. But also I want to dig even deeper into the field of microscopy and maybe get my hands on a scanning electron microscope. Now, I've been working with somebody, and I think one of those is potentially going to show up at some point in time this year, and I'm very excited about that. So yeah, science is going to become a much bigger part of the channel moving forward through 2026, but I'm always going to try and approach that through the lens of vintage computing. So for the Bomem spectrometer here, for example, we're doing it as if though it really were 1985, using the proper PDP-1173 and all of the original electronics in this machine. Of course, we're still going to dig in deep on the mainstay projects that are going on in here. And so there's going to be kind of this balance between science, homebrew computing, and vintage computing. That's kind of our triangle that we're aiming for. So let's talk about the main projects that we're going to work on in 2026, and starting with the big blue beautiful beast here. This is my forever computer, the Centurion, and I'm always looking for something new and exciting to do with it. And we're going to dig into this one again because the Phoenix drive was working last we used it, but something's not right, and we have power distribution problems with this thing. With everything spun up, I think we're pushing probably around 30 to 35 amps. So I can't spin everything up at once, and I really, really want to. So I need to rewire the room such that I can get effectively 40 to 50 amps supplied to this massive cabinet. We also have the CPU5 Centurion inside that we're going to get online, and I want to get this one online as well with a separate serial terminal server out here hooked up to the networks. That way people can log in and use the big boy Centurion and with real deal spinning Rust and, you know, make an event of it. And then we have the Bomem DA3. This is another big mainstay of the channel. I'm having an absolute blast digging into this thing, and we're going to keep going further on it. Right now we have the visible detector in it, and we're doing everything at atmosphere, but I want to put the infrared detectors on it and pull this thing down to a vacuum, which means that we're going to have to overcome some pretty interesting things, like the light sources in here are going to have to be water cooled, because if you're in a vacuum, there's no way to get your heat out. So we're going to have to get a vacuum pump. We're going to have to get a water pump to water cool all of that stuff. And I'm going to have to get different detectors on the front here. And then we're going to start putting different things in there and testing them. Now, the machine itself is in pretty good nick, but the PDP-1173 is going to have to be rebuilt a little bit. Electrically, it's totally fine, but we built that case that's holding the 1173 and the high performance vector processor with the intention of it kind of being a standalone thing, not connected up to this. So we need to tear all of that down and rebuild it again into a desk that's proper, that holds the CRT and the keyboard and everything like it's supposed to be. I mean, Bomem had a desk originally, and unfortunately we don't know of any of those that are surviving. So we're gonna have to build our own desk. The PDP-1144 here is another project that I am super amped up about because I really want to do something with this FPS-100 arithmetic processor. We have all of the cards that we need for it, we just don't have a backplane. So I have been routing out a new backplane in KiCad. The original backplane was wire wrapped, and I'm doing it all with etched traces to save me some sanity, but I'm really worried about crosstalk, and I don't know if it's gonna work, but we're gonna give it a shot at least. So that is about 70% routed right now. I'm gonna keep working on it. I probably expect another month of work on it before we'll order the PCBs for it. In the meantime, on the 1144, since we've learned some pretty interesting things about the FPS 3000 and Well, we haven't, as far as we know, nobody has any surviving software for it, so there's pretty much no way we can use the 3000 with this 1144. We're going to pull it out of the cabinet and I think get some dual floppy drives in here, maybe another Fujitsu 2312 in here, so that way we have 160 megabytes of storage, and then maybe relocate our TU-58 drive around. We're just going to explore the storage options of this. I would love to have this thing be able to boot RSX 11M, RSTS or Ristus, and Unix. So I would love to have 3 different boot options on this, kind of make it the Swiss Army knife of PDP-11s. Now, the Data General Nova 1210 was an extremely fun project, but it's complete. Like we've kind of finished everything that we can do with it. It's being a Nova 1210, it only has a 4-slot backplane, so there's not really a whole lot of opportunity to expand this thing out. And well, I really kind of want to focus on some different projects. And so I think this one is going to get rehomed to my buddy AJ at Forgotten Machines. I can think of nobody more deserving of a Data General Nova 1200 than AJ. He's somebody that is essentially like family to me. So it's less like it's being rehomed and it's more like I'm just letting my brother borrow it for a little bit. So AJ, whenever you're down next, this thing is going in your van, so that way you can take it back and get a working Nova 1200 set up at your home lab. However, you're not taking my ADM3A. I am keeping this. I love this data terminal. I don't know what I'm going to use it with next, but the ADM3A stays. The 1200's yours. The TMS9900 Homebrew is coming along really well. We've changed the design a little bit on the UART. I'll go over that in the upcoming episode. And I've got 3 of the 4 UART PCBs already routed. The 4th one is actually going to be a parallel port for a printer that is a little thermal printer that we're going to set next to the side of it, which I think looks absolutely stunning. And then that's going to fill out the spot back here. So we have this entire right side here for more expansion. And essentially this is going to be a cassette tape drive. That's going to be our mass storage on this thing. Something to keep it nice and compact because I currently have a space problem in this room and I like how compact this Homebrew currently is. Now the wooden case on this is still just temporary. My buddy Corey over at GotBasic.com is currently designing up something that is going to be absolutely beautiful. It's going to look actually too good for the Homebrew, but I'm very excited about that. These next 2 projects are a bit, I'm having trouble finding the right words. I've actually started and stopped the camera like 4 times on this one. The reason that I'm always smiling, I'm always laughing, I'm always clapping and jumping for joy in my videos is because I genuinely love what I do in here. When I come flying out of the seat and run around the room, that's the 12-year-old inside of me bubbling up to the surface, and I feel like a little kid again. I love doing this, and working on these things, even though sometimes it's incredibly frustrating, brings me unbridled joy. However, sometimes when I'm working on a project, I stop feeling that joy. And when the joy has left, I need to stop and think about what the future of that project is and what it means. It's unfair to me and unfair to you for me to force my way through a project that I'm not having fun with. Now, I'm not talking about the LGP21. The LGP21, I think, is one of the most beautiful computers ever made, and I am excited just to talk about it. Like, just explaining what's going on inside of it from what little I understand gets me fired up and super excited. I really, really want to work on this machine. I'm talking about the Data 620. You may have noticed that there hasn't been any videos on the Data 620 for a while. That's not because I'm too busy to work on it. It's because I don't find it joyous to work on it anymore. Maybe if I'm not enjoying it, it's time to get it into the hands of somebody who will enjoy it. it. And so what I'm trying to say is that the Data 620 is going to leave. I've talked to a couple of people, and it's going to go to a very, very good home. And there's a group of people that are going to work on it and get it up and going, and park it right next to a Varian Data 620, which is the newer version of it. This is a Data Machines Incorporated Data 620. And the two of them together are going to kind of tell the story of DMI and Varian and the Data 620 lineage. And I can think of no better place for it to go. So yes, I'm not going to show the Data 620 on videos anymore. And yes, it's going to leave the room, but it is going to somebody who is going to find joy with it. And this is something that I've been really wrestling with over the past 6 months. And I'm finally excited with the direction that it's going in. Even though it's going to be out of my hands, I think it's the better place for it. And finally, let's talk vacuum tube projects. The UE1 is my first ever homebrew computer made entirely out of vacuum tubes, and it's fully functional. Somebody was here visiting the other day, we fired it up, and it worked perfectly. I was actually blown away. I was kind of expecting something to not work. So I have a strong sentimental attachment to this thing, so it's always going to live on the wall. I think it's going to be relocated once we get some new stuff here. Things are going to kind of shuffle around, but it's always going to be here in this room, bolted to the wall. Now there's a little bit of space below it that I am keeping open for UE2, the successor to UE1 here. Now I scaled back the scope of the TMS9900 Homebrew because I really want to ramp up and get into UE2 this year. And I have a design that I'm pretty happy with. It took me a while to kind of settle on something that I'm excited about. I think it's going to be maybe a little bit of rotating drum shenanigans going on in there. And it should be a design that is doable and buildable. And I'm very excited to get started on that. But we got to wrap up the TMS9900 Homebrew first, and then we can get started on the UE2. But there's a few more vacuum tube projects that are going on. Notably, you'll notice that there's a Bendix G15 that should be here, but isn't. That's because it's outside. It's still waiting on me building new casters for it, so that way I can roll it in. But this year we're gonna start experimenting with trying to figure out how to get a new coating on the rotating drum, as well as repainting the panels. So if we can get a proper crinkle finish on those panels, I think it's gonna look absolutely beautiful. And before we just dive in with repainting the panels on the G15, we're going to start with repainting the panel on one of my oscilloscopes down here. This is my HP-150A oscilloscope. I have a 4 or 5 part series that I did on bringing this oscilloscope back to life about 3 years ago. And I didn't have room for it in here, so I just put it up in storage and kind of left it there for a little over a year. And it's always been just nagging away at me at the back of my mind. This is one of my favorite vacuum tube projects. And it's one of those ran when parked things. And so finally I was like, you know what? We're getting it back into the room, and I'm parking it next to the G15 because it's the same era. They have a very similar design aesthetic going on, and I would love to have this thing next to the G15. So on the Twitch streams, which I do every Friday night, we pulled this out. I got it up on the bench. We opened it up, made sure that everything looked copacetic still, fired it up, and it ran for about 45 seconds, and then fried a transformer. Man, that one really hurt. But through the help of Adam, he found another transformer that was the exact one that we needed. And that should be showing up today. So on Friday, the coming Twitch stream, which will have been 2 days ago for you guys after you watch this video, on that Twitch stream, we're going to put the new transformer in this, double check everything to see why the transformer fried in the first place, and get it back up and running. And then once this thing is healthy, we have another plug-in module that goes on the bottom here. This is a high gain amplifier. I want to fully restore this, get it into it. I'm going to have to 3D print some buttons for the front of it. And then I want to strip and repaint the casing of this in the same type of crinkle paint that's teal colored as the Bendix G15. It'll be a good, easy test bed for us to test different types of crinkle paint painting techniques and then apply what we learn on the Bendix G15. So that way, when we paint the G15 out of the gate, we already know what we're doing. The final vacuum tube project that we're going to get to in 2026 is I bought an NCR Computronic. It feels like about halfway between an electromechanical adding machine and the Bendix G15. It's incredibly complex. It looks like a teletype inside. It's unbelievably wild, but it also has a separate box filled to the brim with vacuum tubes. There's like no documentation out there. So it's going to be a very difficult bring up, but it looks complete, and that should be getting here around the same time as the scanning electron microscope. And I think we're going to put it pretty much right here next to the Bendix G15. We're going to scoot the UE one over a little bit, and this is just going to kind of be my vacuum tube corner. Now, before I talk about what's going to go where and how we're going to reorganize the entire room, there's two more projects that I didn't mention because they're not in the room. One is the Litton, which was originally sitting right there, but you notice it is missing. And that's because we were working on the Litton on the Friday night Twitch streams that we were doing. It looked like it was coming up. We were starting to talk to it. We were getting some feedback out of it. We managed to dump all of the data off of the rotating drum in there, so that's all backed up and safe. And then one night while we were working on it, the motor run capacitor for the rotating drum exploded.
We can go back to the...
Oh, Jesus Christ!
Did something just blow up?
What happened? Are you okay?
Yeah, well, I jumped out of the way and stepped on the camera, which we had like a legitimate explosion, and showered the entire inside of the machine with PCB oil, which is not good. That stuff is highly carcinogenic, very bad for you. So in the cleanup process for cleaning up the entire machine and getting it safe and healthy again, the flex cables that connect all of the PCBs fell apart. I mean, they were in really rough shape to begin with, and that did them no favors. So we're trying to think of good ways to replicate those, and we have a couple of ideas. And so that's something that we're going to dive back into on the Friday night Twitch streams after we get the HP-150A and the paper tape reader and a couple other things squared away, because the emotional damage of the Litton exploding I'm still recovering from that. So once we've recovered from the Litton, we'll get back to work. But that box, the drum is not in it right now, so that box could come back inside. There's one more project that is a TI-980 that I recently picked up. I don't particularly know when and where or how we're going to work on this, whether it's going to be a main video or it's going to be a Twitch thing. But I do want to get it at least powered on before VCF Southwest, which means that at some point in time we're going to have to go full bore on it just to get it powered up and get some lights blinking on it. So with those two in mind, let's talk about where things are going in here. The bookshelf here, I think, is going to move over to this wall. The Centurion is going to come away from that wall and go up here against this wall. It's going to make it a little easier to get the 50 amps over to it for the power that I need. Now I have a wide open wall on the back here. That bookshelf's going to have to move. But I got a wide open wall on the back here, and this is where this is my science wall now. So we're going to put the scanning electron microscope there. We're going to build a new desk that kind of fills out this corner. It has the Bomem in it with the Bomem computer. And we're going to set up the microscope, the optical microscope on that desk, and just kind of turn this into a little cubby of cool science. And then on this wall, we'll have the full Centurion setup, the PDP-1144, the Litton, the TI-980 with the ASR33 teletype on it. And then we get over to this corner here. I realize that the natural light from my windows is probably wreaking havoc on the camera, making it very hard to see. I'll try to fix that in post. What I need to do is put different blinds on there that block more light, so my lighting in the room is a little more consistent. What we're going to do for layout, the LGB21 will then turn into an L that I think sits nicely here in the corner. So that way you've got your tape reader here and your compute unit and stuff here. And then you have Bendix G15 and typewriter, NCR Computronic, then UE1, UE2. I think that layout is going to look pretty nice. We're going to end up with some really cool new projects going on in 2026. I'm very excited for what the year is going to bring. I think we can do some really cool stuff in here. So Sorry, today was a wildly different video. They're not all like this, I promise. But if you hung around to the end, thank you so much for hanging out with me today. And I hope you have a little bit better of an idea of where I'm thinking things are going to go in this room and what we're going to work on. So thank you all so much. Hope to see you in the next one.